My name is Sophia, and I'm a 24-year-old grad student studying information, fancy word for librarianship, and these are going to be my vlogs where I talk about my thesis and my thesis research, which is on feminist science fiction and fantasy, and it is going to cure hunger, world hunger, and cancer. And it's also going to, inspire future generations for years to come. It's just going to be the most life-changing and impactful research anyone's ever done. And these vlogs are part of my reading course, where I'm going to talk about all the research I'm doing. And they were also inspired by my favorite thing in the world, which is the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, which was a vlog adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And over the past 12 years, I've watched it well over 12 times. It's really an obsession that I keep coming back to. And in it, Lizzie Bennet is a 24-year-old grad student studying communications and doing her thesis, and she uses her video blogs as part of her thesis. So this is very meta. I guess I did think I would be a 24-year-old grad student doing a thesis, but it's weird to be here already. And without further ado, let's get into what I read this week. The first thing that I read was Donna Harraway, her essay on situatedness. I forget what it's called. It's a famous essay. And, I knew who Donna Harraway was, and I knew what situatedness was when my reading course advisor told me to read this article, and then I started reading it. And I was like, oh wait, I know what this is, because it's all about kind of the basis for actor network theory and agency theory and new materialism, which that all started coming back to me because right now that is the main fancy new big theory that is used in archaeology. And so we learned a lot about it in archaeological theory, which is fun fact. I kind of hate theory, but I also got the best mark I ever got in university in archaeological theory. And so all of that was coming back to me as I was reading this, and it also reminded me that my main problem with the new materialism movement, which is that they just talk way too damn much. They just have so much to say and not enough to do. They just love to just give you theory without ever actually doing anything with it. And Donna Harraway seems to be a master at this. She just loves to talk. For me, all articles should be 6 pages. That being said, I do think the concept of situatedness is explained and through a feminist lens very well in this essay, but it's taken me 6 years of education to really be able to read this without wanting to bash my head into a wall. The other thing that I discovered when I was reading this article was Donna Harraway's connection to Ursula Kwin, who is kind of the central figure of my thesis and who I base my theory on, because Ursula Kwin is actually not really a theorist or philosopher. She is smart and she knows that those things are dumb and you can't really use them. You can use them through fiction. Yes, that's my big brain moment. And Donna Harraway in the essay started talking about one thing in particular that really set off a light bulb for me, which is the coyote mythology, and that we need to see the world as a trickster and understand that okay, so just the coyote trickster mythology. I'm not going to try and explain it to you. And that set off alarm bells because Ursula Kwin has a short story about the coyote trickster, and I believe it's called Buffalo Gals Come Out Tonight. So I was like, that's interesting. But then in the next sentence, Donna Harraway started talking about how a lot of the ideas she writes about in the article were best represented through science fiction, and I was like, oh, well, obviously she knows who Ursula Kwin is, and this is written in the 80s, and I really should have realized that sooner, because Donna Harraway is from the University of Berkeley, which is where Ursula Kwin was associated with. So I was like, wait. So I started doing some Googling, and I did find a talk that they both did together shortly before Ursula passed away. And I watched that, and it was just funny because Donna Harraway would start spouting some like BS, and Ursula Kwin would just be like, girl, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. But yeah. So that was the first thing I read. And then I also started reading this book, Living a Feminist Life by Sower, and I've read half of it. And I do think, once again, why are we prattling on like this? I like this book too. And it is incredibly useful. I think the chapter that really stood out to me the most in being beneficial to my research is the chapter on willfulness, because she talks about like using personal experiences in feminist research, and that's part of situatedness as well. And to call me willful would be an understatement. So a lot of the stuff she was describing was me, but I also think the willfulness aspect is the way a lot of the characters in the books that I'm researching really embody feminist values is through this kind of expression of willfulness. And there's a connection there. So far, you know, we're diving into the feminist side, not really the bibliography side yet. That's kind of later in the course. But this book, Sower, good writer. And I also wanted to share the book that I was reading personally right now, because that's also, I think, fun and part of my thesis. And I would say finally read this book, The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. It's kind of a classic, and I have to say, there's a reason why it's kind of a classic. It was really good. Imagine me saying this book is really good, and I loved a lot of it. I loved how scary it was. That was my favorite part. This book is really scary, and I love that part kind of the most out of all of it. I do think, why did she end up with an old man? Because the only other book I've read by Octavia Butler so far is Fledgling. In that book, there was also some weird age stuff going on. I understand there's this aspect of like the criticism of the hypersexualization of young black girls. And that's kind of like what's going on in Fledgling. But in this book, it also is kind of going on too. And it also just weirdly happens in a lot of the books that I'm studying. So I don't know if that's something I want to look into or discuss, but it does happen. So that's what I just finished last night. And with that is my vlog. Come back next week to learn more about feminist theory. Until then, see you guys later.